Hey, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I had one of the most difficult days in a long time yesterday. I had to attend the funeral of a dear and old friend, my friend Rabbi David Keene, who I grew up with and who had a tremendous influence on my life, just suddenly passed away. And so, with your permission, I'd like to dedicate these words of Torah to his memory. He was a very, very beautiful guy. I actually wrote about David in my first book, Beyond the Instant, in the chapter on achieving success in life. And when I was trying to find an example, a real live example, of someone who just pushed through difficulty and challenge and just persisted against all odds, it was David. See, David, when the two of us went off to Israel, like a lot of our friends and my kids continue to do. I have one there now for their gap year in Israel. We were 18 years old. We went off to study, and he just went completely blind, unexpectedly, some kind of degenerative type of affliction that affected his optic nerve, and within weeks he was blind. And we came back to college together. We went to Yeshiva University, and honestly, I didn't really know how he was going to do it. How was he going to take tests? How was he going to finish school? How was he going to date and just have a normal life? And David not only finished college, but we went to rabbinical school together. And he also got a master's degree in psychology and became a chaplain at NYU, first at Booth Memorial and then NYU Hospital downtown. And it was an unbelievable thing. He also got married, had children, and just lived a really exceptional, beautiful life. But there were times when he really struggled, when it was hard. It was just rough. All of these daily tasks that used to come easy now became these huge chores. But I remember getting so much inspiration from his just plugging away, his constant persistence. I would always see him in the Beit Midrash, in the Jewish study hall late at night, when we were in Smicha, when we were in rabbinical school together, just plugging away, be listening to that Walkman of his, because all the rabbis would make these audio tapes for him so he could listen to all of the lectures. He took dozens of exams orally and completed the Smicha program at Yeshiva University, became a rabbi, got a master's degree, and went on to giving comfort and solace to countless patients in different hospitals here in New York City. And he was just an unbelievable inspiration. And I just wanted to mention that to you and just say very quickly that in this week's Parsha, in Chayei Sarah, the Torah tells us that Sarah was 100, she was 20, and she was 7. And the Torah wants us to do the math. We know that she was 127 when she died. But the rabbis teach that the reason it phrases it in such a strange way is that when Sarah was 100, she was as beautiful as when she was 20. And when she was 20, she was as sinless as when she was 7. And Rabbi Soloveitchik taught that what that really means is that these three phases of adulthood, childhood, which is characterized by innocence and naivete, and young adulthood, a 20-year-old who is passionate about causes, and then finally an older person who becomes wise. Right? That those are three different qualities you have at these three different stages in life. And whereas most of us replace one with the other as we get older, right? When we're young and we're innocent, and then we hit the age of 20, that innocence and naivete, look what happens on college campus, where we get passionate about causes and idealistic, right? But we lose that innocence and that naivete of our childhood. And then when we pass the age of 20 and we start getting a job and having to work and live in the real world, so to speak, and we lose some of that passion and idealism that we had on college campus, and we get a little cynical and jaded, but hopefully we get a little wiser as we get older. Sarah Imenu, Sarah our matriarch, was able to combine all three, says Rabbi Soloveitchik. That's what that rabbinic teaching is teaching us, 120 and 7, that when she was 100 years old, she had not only the wisdom of repeated life experiences of a 100-year-old, but she also had the passion and idealism of a 20-year-old, the innocence and naivete of a 7-year-old. And that was David. my beloved friend David Keene. He was so innocent and he was so pure. And he stayed passionate and idealistic about everything he did in life. It was unbelievable. He just stayed the same. As he got older, he got wiser, but he stayed pure and he stayed passionate. And that's my bracha to all of you and to all of us. As all of us, we age, we get older. Let's not lose our innocence and purity that we had when we were little. It's so sweet and it's so beautiful and it's so important. And let's always be passionate and never get jaded and cynical as we get older and we hopefully become wiser through the study of our Torah, of our Jewish tradition, and just living in this world and meeting more and more people. David met so many people. Ezo chacham holomed mikol adam. Who is a wise person? The sages in the ethics of our fathers ask, someone who can learn from anyone. David learned from everyone, and that's why he kept growing. And even though he stayed a child, he stayed a young adult, and he became wise. He continued to grow. May his memory be a blessing, and may we all continue to learn from him, from the incredible example that he set. Shabbat Shalom.